What's up? It is 3 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to Cannabis Legalization News, where we explain marijuana laws so you can change them. Today, we're going to be talking about Biden just being a trash president. We're going to be talking about, New York and New Mexico are making progress in terms of cannabis legalization. And the House reintroduced the Safe Banking Act. So let's just get right into it. Hey, Tom. Hey, Miggy.
What's up?
Oh, my goodness. Did you see the Biden administration this weekend? Or since Friday. It's just been a big cluster.
Well, yeah, I had a good 2-hour conversation with Luke on the podcast Friday night, the day it happened. I shared it with everybody. And I'm glad to have another chance to reanalyze this sober because we were drinking and talking. So, you how you ponder a lot of shit.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us and tuning in to Cannabis Legalization News. Smash those likes, hit the subscribes, and then do check out Luke's channel. Luke's is Let's Talk Cannabis Media. He's a great guy. We've had him on the program before. We're going to have some more. A lot of other YouTubers have been reaching out, and so we're going to try to get them lined up to come on the show. And then some other great guests. For example, Tommy Chong. We have him lined up, so we're going to have to do like a Zoom episode with him. And then we'll upload it and hopefully have the ability to, we'll do a premiere. And so, we'll be able to interact with people, but we got to record it because, he's old school like that.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. I mean, he had technical issues, whatever. But this topic is, it's funny though. This is bringing out more of that QAnon bullshit people like this. Again, to me, presidents are just like figureheads. They're not really the ones laying the actual policy down for the most part, but total bullshit. Luke brought up a good point that they might be like getting feelers out. How like the week before there was the Kamala Harris statement about she changed her mind, more siding with Biden this time.
They're this stupid on politics. Because you see that article saying that Biden didn't want to embrace cannabis legalization because he thought it would cost him the election.
Oh yeah, no, that's going full retard. I mean, and I know I'm not supposed to use the word, but
it's pejorative, and there's no exceptions to it. I've been on recently. I've been on board calls where I'm made to feel bad that I'm a white guy, and so it's like, oh, we're not diverse enough. So like, what? You can tell I have a disability because of the color of my skin, or I don't have a disability because of the color of my skin, but. It's stupid. People are all over the place. And yet here we are trying to represent cannabis and fix these laws in a way that's going to help as many people as we can help. But what happens when, Joe Biden's administration finds out that you go home where you live in Washington, D.C., where this wedding sherbet would be frickin' legal? And sure, shout out to Sherpinski, genetics of amazing things that we're going to grind that up and put it into this pipe and smoke it. But 5 White House staffers are being shown the door because of their previous cannabis use. Who was reporting that one, Lauren? Is this the Daily Beast article, or do we have this is the Associated Press? Yeah. And so the Associated Press is picked up on it. This is March 19th. I don't have a copy of that one. I got a copy of the Daily Beast article up.
But the story, the Daily Beast one, it talks about how like some were asked to resign, some were given that. You remember what the statement was? I think 2 weeks or a week prior, where hey, it's okay, you just got to quarantine yourself for a little bit, right?
Like recent cannabis use was okay, or provided that it wasn't recent. Like, what does that mean? Like, again. They get done working at the White House in Washington, D.C. That jurisdiction has legal weed.
But see, this is that big issue that's been following cannabis throughout all of this process since the beginning of Prohibition to Prop 215 with medical, where we don't have rights. Like always,
you don't have rights, and like we can chastise you, we can judge you, we can put you under our boot heel because we feel that you are not equal to us. Like if you are using weed, something is wrong with you. Good people don't do it, according to Lindsey Graham. Was it Lindsey Graham?
No, that was Jeff Sessions.
Jeff Sessions. God, I'm so glad he's gone.
But there's so much of that shit, though, right?
Ralph Forrest.
The what?
Jeff Sessions has returned to the Keebler Elf Forest, where he can now be a Keebler Elf again. And if you believe that, smash them likes, click the bell, because then you'll get notification when we go live for cannabis legalization news as we're breaking down how many people got fired. Dozens of young White House staffers have been suspended, asked to resign, or placed in a remote work program due to past marijuana use, frustrating staffers who were pleased by initial indications from the Biden administration that recreational use of cannabis would not be immediately disqualifying. You know, it's like legal when I was studying at Booth at B school in Illinois, or it was legal when I was at Stanford in California. Or it was, you know, well, shit, they don't have it legal. I had a medical card when I was going to Princeton.
But
you know,
the thing is, back to the conversation I had with Luke, he brought out the again how I say that this is bringing out all the bullshit conspiracy theorists. Just like the recent meme that you shared with him stumbling, right? Like Biden's tripping all over himself, right? And people are all like reaching on this shit. And you know, at face value, this is all just bullshit anyways. Like, people are getting hysterical, blaming one thing or another. More than anything, right now you're seeing politics in place, right? They're getting feelers, they're checking things out, they're seeing like, where should we, which is bullshit. Let's just fucking fix this, because systemically this is part of.
Let's look at the facts of the plant. Let's look at the regulations that work. Let's look at how states that have regulated have benefited. Let's look at the objective science that you haven't been funding because it shows what that you've known it was going to show for over 50 years. It's not what you told the people that it was. You've been lying to the people about how dangerous it is, and that's why you're suppressing evidence. And so cannabis legalization news reached the President Biden for an official response to those questions, like, why are you backpedaling on this issue after decades of science in the face of funding only to find the harm, have validated that cannabis legalization is good policy? This was his response.
Whoa.
And so how does that help people? They're going to be fired. They're going to be fired. Okay, good. I'm glad that the staffers have been fired.
Do you think, though, perhaps, like, I mean, this is a constant problem with cannabis legalization, prohibition, period, is that, you know, they put out this statement where everybody's like, hey, we're going to accept you now. Like, come for us, come work with us, because we're going to work with you. And then everybody's like, all right, I'm feeling safer and better as a human being in my job security. It's the most American thing, right? Like, as a human, and they say, hey, yeah, I did it. I checked that mark. And then
not
they say,
necessarily. Like, again, job security for me is still somewhat up in the air, but it's getting better. Like, you know, as an entrepreneur, like, you know, you kind of say, I got an idea and I think it's going to work. And then you see if you can put out some invoices and make some money. And then if that starts to work and then you're building the business, it gets very, very exciting, but there's no guarantees. I mean, it's risk. And so, like, you try, but then, like, when you get to like a job, like if you're working for Microsoft or Amazon, like you're working for an established business, the entrepreneur's 10, 20 years down the road, you know, and they've already gotten secure and they have cash flow to pay their employees. Then,
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, though, is like, for the most, like, prohibition is not giving people a chance. Like you're already the bad person. You're already somebody with questionable values.
You can't work at the White House.
You know, and dude, I've had a top secret clearance. I know numbers that fucking are like, I've done shit that's like affects our national defense. Right? As a cannabis consumer, I still was fucking fine. Like, this is just ridiculous.
You would have been shown the door in the Biden White House.
Well, I didn't show the door in any of the White Houses, but that's the thing is, you know, we're at weird times, right? Like, I don't blame Biden for shit. I just think he's just another old white dude in charge of, like, in charge.
You know what Biden was in 1994.
What's that?
He was in the Senate passing the crime reform bills of the 1990s that caused the prison population explosion and a lot of the crack cocaine disparities and those types of sentencing terribleness, and then probably the gun enhancement. And so like now anybody who's trying to like have a security guard at their cannabis dispensary, they don't want him to be an employee with a gun. That's a whole different level of federal crimes. If anything, you want to have like a private security person who has the gun. It's like, hey, look, I was just paying him to show up with a gun. He doesn't work here.
Well,
I mean, it's so terrible that those are the laws and those are the regulations, and the industry is still fucking growing at like 40% a year.
And how much money coming in and livelihoods and neighborhoods are safer. You know, these are the same people like Biden, Clinton, and, you know, again, this shows how we're not Republican or Democrat. It's just that now the Republicans are all dickheads, but even though the president
Democrats are being dickheads, Biden be tripping.
Well, I'm saying they fucking coined the term super predator, right? Like this is something that as a brown human being, a brown American, you know, I live in the middle ground where I get reminded I'm brown sometimes. Some people just accept me, but God forbid if I was black. You know, like
if anybody like that, God forbid, people would stop looking at other people and going like, "Oh, I can judge you because of how you look."
Yeah.
God forbid people would stop doing that and like get to know somebody for 5 minutes and then judge them about like what they did or like how terrible of a person they are or like how double crossing duplicative they can be, as opposed to be like, well, he was white, so you know something was wrong.
It isn't why we don't have good policy though, because good policy would make it easier for us to identify, or you know, it's like people who haven't smoked until it's illegal in their state, right? When you see an illegal state happen, you see all these people come out of the woodworks, and they're like, it's legal now, so it must be okay. Well, it hasn't changed since you were fucking 18 there, you 80-year-old. Like that's
so like, would you have just owned that slave until after the Emancipation Proclamation? You're like, well, I guess you're free now.
Yeah. Separate drinking fountains were a thing at one time. Was that okay?
Separate but equal was a thing. Talk about an evisceration of the 14th Amendment, where you have equal protection under the law, and then through racist Supreme Courts, white racist Supreme Courts, white men racist Supreme Courts, they go, oh no, it can be separate but still be equal. Well, what is equal? Is equal like the water pressure coming out of the drinking fountain? And so like one is going to be like this beautiful statuesque, you know, marble ensconced, whites only drinking fountain, but its water pressure will be equal to the water pressure of the piece of crap hose that is for coloreds.
Dude, this was going to be a hard one to talk about me today, just because of the next two topics. Like, this is something I want to like warn all you people who get triggered by BLM and defund the police, because right now the next two articles are the example prime 1 and 2 of most recent days. Right, there are other stories like Philando Castile, Sarah Blaine, that involve marijuana and deaths and arrests. But again, if the prohibition didn't fucking exist, these people would still be alive. Like that.
Yep.
That's it.
And this is like political doesn't make any sense with the cannabis laws. And so like our Name That Strain today comes from Wasilla, Alaska, where Sarah Palin was the mayor. But yet our lead story has to do with the democratically elected, hey, turn Georgia blue, will legalize weed in the Senate. President, the Democrat who's firing people in his administration for past cannabis use. Now imagine that. You go to work, you go home, you pack a bowl because it's legal in Washington, D.C. You legally consume something safer than alcohol. You legally consume something safer than cigarettes or McDonald's cheeseburgers, and you are fired for that. Dude, you don't have any constitutional protection against that. And so that's one of the things when people like will email me all the time because they get fired for, getting a drug test that doesn't pass. Yeah. And so they get flagged. They're like, man, they fired me. I got my medical card. And I'm like, how very often wrongful termination works is if you have a constitutionally protected right. They can't fire you for being a woman. They can't fire you for being black. They can't fire you for being Hispanic. They can't fire you for being, disabled. They can't fire you for these types of things. Those are constitutionally protected. You're talking about medical weed.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
unless medical weed law like creates a constitutional protection,
employment rights, like you're covered if I hurt my arm, if I fell off a ladder and now I have an opioid prescription for a broken arm and I'm taking pills at work and then all of a sudden I cut off my other arm, some bullshit, right? Weird scenario.
Oh, yeah.
Safe, I'm okay, everything was legal, but God forbid I get a holistic program for my asthma or my anxiety or case of the monies. God forbid I try and take care of myself or I don't want to shoot people at the end of the day.
Or like you're trying to, like, one of the things, what did Dr. Ethan Russo, one of the most learned men in the cannabinoid science world,
it's health and wellness.
It is the chief homeostatic regulator of your body, your endocannabinoid system. This is probably one of the reasons why Crohn's disease responds well to cannabis and other, cannabis, and because it's trying to regulate your endocannabinoid system. So those types of autoimmune disorders, there's reasons why medical cannabis is a thing. And it has to do with your endocannabinoid system being supplemented by the cannabinoids that are in it.
There's a reason why your body absorbs it and accepts it and
then stores it for later use.
Well, it's just like we learned the hard way that our body's like organic. There's things that our body requires, like vitamin C or B. There's all these different vitamin components out there in or proteins. And somehow we decided to think that cannabinoids don't. Our body's not like our body doesn't like to be happy. That's the thing is the wellness portion, the health portion, the high portion, the I'm sad when I don't have weed portion is just wellness. It's people going, there's a better option. I don't need to mask this with a Tylenol or a beer. I can smoke with weed.
Right. You can smoke weed and avoid a lot of the problems that are related to, and then we've reported on this. What happened? Workers' comp claims go down because people are using weed more and opioids less. Workers' comp decreases.
And again, kids' use doesn't increase. The traffics are not accidents happening everywhere.
I think people aren't just riling everybody up. So let's keep riling them up for another 20 seconds, and then it's 4:20 somewhere, bro.
Right? Oh yeah, that's right.
Hey, you're not riling them up, and that's why you gotta fight to make sure that it is legal, not just in your home, but like we need to fight alcohol where they're serving it in bars, and we have to have lawful use lounges. They're going to have 35 in Detroit. I believe 35. Yeah, consumption lounges in Detroit. And if you're interested on getting one, follow me on Instagram at Cannabis Industry Lawyer. Hit me up. Let's try to get you a dispensary license, a cultivation license, or a what do they call it? Something use. Consumption lounge.
Oh yeah. But back to the rights though with the medical use. You can get that in a book. Some states have changed their laws to that. So if people are going to get riled out about something, change that in your state. Look up that law for your state because you can create those rights and not get fired for it unless it's federal. Then you're
yeah. And if you're taking that federal money, I want to remind you that it is 4:20 in Bali right now.
Ooh.
I've never been in Bali, man.
I would love to. I had a friend that did that.
Really?
In the Navy. He said it was a blast.
God damn it, Roger. Well, actually, I grew that. That was my home grow. That was some tasty cannabis that I grew. I love the stupid rules that you have to have. Like if this was a grow and give state, I'm in Illinois, you're not allowed. I grew all of that. And so it's like, really? Yes. Yes, I did. And so prove that I didn't. And so and in some states they have the grow and give. Michigan, maybe Seattle, maybe Washington states like that, where a medical patient can gift their medical cannabis. But in some ways they write these laws, they only really legalize the commercial sale.
Yeah.
So you know what? We got over 200 people joining us. I just wanted to thank them. And then I wanted to remind them, we are now a game. You can play Cannabis Legalization News, the game, and you can be the producer of Miggy's next story. Miggy just dropped one on Cannabis Legalization News. Let's talk about that one. Waiting for Weed Jesus Part 1.
Oh, that was just fun, dude. That was like my anxiety. And then, of course, I embed the video just to talk about it. But
right on.
Yeah, man, I'm excited.
Subscribe to our CLN newsletter in there. So visit Cannabis Legalization News. Miggy is going to be writing more articles. And when we play Name That Strain, we want you to go to Cannabis Legalization News and drop the strains for us there. We have a Name That Strain today. It's a pretty good one. It's out of Wasilla, Alaska. That's right. This Name That Strain comes to us from where Sarah Palin was the mayor. So remember that. Name that strain. What is that? So get it in the comments. Anybody who gets it right will get mad props. And then we'll also mail them some Bovida that I still have. Give us a copy of the book that I wrote. That is how Miggy and I met 10 years ago.
Sweet. Thanks, Chris.
Right on. Right on. Now, thank you, Chris, for becoming a YouTube member. The members have access to our silly emojis. So there are CLN emojis and fire emojis and a Miggy emoji. And there's one for me as well. And then it's just another way for us to drive revenue so that we can create content for you to help you all legalize it appropriately in your state.
We're getting there, but it's such a convoluted process. This is
when can somebody participate in the cannabis industry in Illinois, and when can an adult grow at their home in Washington State?
Now, is that like a general question, or just like you're just kind of
still Cannabis Legalization News? Like, as soon as the state legalizes, it ain't done. You're just really getting started.
It's beyond that, because like even with the activism and the people are still being incarcerated, and, there's a lot to work out. Like you said, the rules for the players who want to be legit players, and then there's also the people who are just getting screwed. People getting fucked in their lives for a plant. Do we have the article ready for the family that calls for justice?
Let's go to the next. Let's go to the next one, and then I will. While you're doing that, I'm just kind of like perusing to see if anybody has named the strain.
Right on.
Alaska. We're going to give mad props to the growers. The growers was named. I believe it wasn't Adam Mckay. It was Ryan Mckay, Adam McKay's brother, who grows weed in Alaska. Right. And so he has gotten this. This is a shout out to Alaska Legacy Genetics.
Great trim too, by the way.
Very nice trim. I wonder if it was by hand or machine.
Oh, I think this is by hand. That's the next one. Hand or machine.
Oh my gosh. All right, let's hit the news, man. What's happening?
Yeah. So let's get back to, meanwhile, the war on drugs continues to be deadly. Loved ones of a man who was shot and killed by police in Delaware are asking for help from President Joe Biden after officials released body camera footage, which the family say refutes a statement from investigators that the man drove directly at the officers, forcing them to open fire. So I watched this video. There's a lot going on here. We're obviously not going to watch it because it's so fucked up. But the thing is, he was sitting in front of his mom's house in the city, right? So in the city, like things are different in Peoria versus Chicago. If there's 100 cars in the front of a lawn or in the front of a street, it's a very busy area. And that's where this man was at. He was in a busy area, sitting in his car. It looked like he was kind of asleep, kind of halfed out. I don't know how many people have done this, but I've sat in my car in front of my own freaking house and just had my moments of just like, I'm not going inside or whatever the case is. Somebody called the cops on him. Cops show up. One of the first things they ask about is the marijuana in the seat, the side passenger seat. They're saying, hey, we're not concerned about the weed. We're concerned because we got a phone call about this car. And it's like, why did you bring up the weed? Like, if prohibition didn't exist. So the man does get excited. He does sprint out. And I think there's another cop car coming another way. So he tries to turn around. And that's when they start shooting at the car. All right. That just sums up the whole scene. Again, if the weed wasn't part of this issue, if he was never brought up, he wouldn't have fear automatically in your head. Like, oh shit.
They go to, what happened to fisticuffs? You know,
Yeah.
back when they had racism in the 60s, they would beat the black people with a baton. And at least they wouldn't die as quickly.
Again, he was in a car, so they couldn't do nothing, but they didn't have to interact with him, right? That's the hugest issue with the police too, is they're not being trained properly. Like, they escalate more shit than they like. How many bouncers have killed people, right? Like, like a bouncer's job in a bar is to control a situation. If you're a cop,
he might knock you the fuck out. He's like, no, I knocked him the fuck out. Why? It's my job. Like,
but fundamentally, if you're a sober, trained, disciplined human being, you're going to be in the control of the situation, and you got the fucking gun already. You don't need to fucking pull it out right away. It's never always that situation.
Talk about escalating the situation. Well, I know what I'll do. I smell a harmless flower that has a questionable legal status, and so I'm going to now start shooting. And no, why was this? Who trained you?
There was no need to bring up the weed, though. Like, if you're doing a wellness check or any other, when you see the video, they approached the guy. There was no reason. Like, they had the situation control, and they seem like they just don't know how to interact with people. Like, there's something missing in the training of law enforcement, and the funding is part of it, right? Like, cops don't need to be going out to all these calls. Like, if it was an actual wellness check of like something going on, they could have sent I don't know. The different cities have different types of counselors that show up. I know Portland does, but it doesn't have to be with a guy with a gun, you know. And just like the second story about the man who died in Collin County jail was having mental health crisis. Attorney says,
"My God, this again goes back to nobody is more ignored in our country than the mentally ill. Yeah. The only other people that are ignored are the felons, because if you're either one of those, you're allowed to discriminate against them. You're allowed to kick them to the curb and say, well, you don't matter. And by the way, get out of my way. You know, and so we treat some people in our country terribly, like so terribly that we dehumanize them. And I don't get why.
Exactly. And the dehumanization begins as soon as because he got arrested for marijuana. That was it. He was arrested for possession of a joint, and I think maybe some ounces or something, but he's a normal
arrested. Like, I understand it's like, oh yeah, well, sir, we're going to take your weed. We are going to weigh it. Here is your court date. You will have to pay, let's see, there will be tax penalties. So you get caught with weight of weed, a pound. It's like, sorry, sir, that's going to be $2,500 of tax penalties. Please go to this place at such and such time.
See, these two stories are exactly the reason why I've been doing but also another reason is why you have to use a fake name, why you have to, this is why you don't have a lot of people standing up for a stupid ass plan.
If I didn't have my own company that could make money so that I could do this, I'd be fucked. And that I was fucked when I was at a large law firm because I wasn't allowed to do this.
Yeah.
What did they tell me? They told me to stop promoting that book. That's why it was like from 2010 to 2018.
Right?
Yeah. And
no, but this is exactly it though. They tell you to stop doing the book. I'm finally in a position where as a technician, I make so much people a benefit that they will leave me alone. But I would like the media thing, which I've done. This is again my 4th or 5th rodeo. But I have full confidence with the team we've collected that we are going to be.
You need a package, you see, because I'm going to sell people an application for tens of thousands of dollars. And some of it is the community outreach and also the social media and the marketing and the web package. And so we could create a nice little consulting product. The Miggy, do you want to get Miggy in on this one? The Miggy 10 grand. And so the Miggy 10 grand would be a bullet point list of what you would deliver.
Dude, I mean, like we've had the numbers where, we're finally trying to figure out, okay, Cannabis Legalization News is a podcast website. Sure. We want to be your focus for both the policy, the fucked up shit, but the culture. I mean, it's a combination. Legalization, cannabis, High Times, that's where they had it right. Back in the before days when they were really good, with Stephen Hager and the old 80s, 90s type era. Somehow they went downhill when they got more commercialized, but I think, we have potential. We have the people behind it, the experience, and the conversation, and we're going to get there. It's fine. But yeah, this was a very upsetting one because this is why I've been doing the stuff before, like why I helped establish a network. It's because there's a shadow ban. It's because you're undervalued automatically for being a cannabis consumer. Now,
Yeah.
On top of that, why the social equity conversation is so important, because add the minority into it, Black, brown, Asian,
the representativeness of it, like the social equity aspect of it makes the 14th Amendment and the equal protection, like implications of what's happened, all the more nuanced and all the more difficult to like try to like navigate in a way that you can create law that isn't flagrantly unconstitutional. But then, like, why wouldn't you create law that is flagrantly unconstitutional after the cannabis laws? If you just get it on the books, it might be there for 80 years.
Yeah,
and
that's
going the way I want it,
And you're exactly right, though. As soon as things happen, you're never fully there with legalization, because it's until, like I've said before, broccoli, right? Until I can just start throwing seeds. I just, by the way, I finally started sprouting, and so now this one's bag seed.
Bag seed. Now, don't forget, if you join Miggy's next story, you can see what happens to bag seed. Don't forget to join Miggy's next story by becoming a member.
And hopefully her sister, Astro Cookies.
Oh, Astro Cookies. You see, this is foreshadowing. And so we're going to be foreshadowing what Miggy's next story for Astro Cookies and other stuff is. Don't worry, it's a legal medical grow.
Yeah, sure.
That's the story, and we're sticking to it.
It's legal in my state, goddammit. It's and that's the oxymoron paradox of cannabis policy, prohibition, regulation, even the term regulation with prohibition in the same time.
Yeah, typically if you have more than an ounce, it ain't legal.
And then how is it you're going to put caps in the market, like these people trying to put the THC caps, right? Again, we talked about there's no alcohol caps. There's no
nobody gets like, oh my gosh, the only alcohol cap is people got in so many drunk driving accidents after cars were invented that eventually an entire organization called Mothers Against Drunk Driving tried to change these laws because so many people would get drunk and then drive. And this took decades. And now we have these types of draconian policies where DUIs are a cottage industry for many lawyers. I'm not saying that it's shit. I'm a lawyer. I set up weird shell corporations for raising money. And so we all have to earn our living somehow. But still, it has to do with the way that they are regulating anything that has to, change how you feel. But then the
I was thinking though, so the draconian shit, right? So we got these outdated laws. First we knocked out the segregation laws, right? That was obviously one of the worst ones that was considered normal, and like we're America, like there's no, that shouldn't exist. And then the next one is prohibition, the draconian part being that it was racist to help bring it about, but also, it was back then people who knew how to work the system, knew how to, like, they were all McConnells, both sides, left and right? Like, and I think that's the thing is, like, now with Biden and McConnell, you got these two old fuckers that have been reading the book, know how to play the book, how to know the rules, right? Like, to being Senate and House, there's so many, protocols. There's so many ways to do the decorum and stuff where, like, this Marguerite Scott, the Majory chick, I kind of like, I'm waiting. I'm like, one of these fuckers are gonna have to snap, because not everybody is disciplined, because that's the whole purpose of this civil gathering, right? We're supposed to be able to talk without raising our voices. We're not going to be like those.
That's why you hire lawyers, because, like, I'm pissed off. I'm the guy who was wronged. It's all right. I'll represent you, and I'll be able to cogently and coolly make sure that you have the best arguments according to laws. Awesome. Yeah. How much is that going to cost? Tens of thousands of dollars. Motherfucker. God,
but that's how America works, though. But on that point, though, how come? I mean, that's kind of almost what's separating. Have you seen, like, in Asia, where their parliaments are actually jumping over the chairs, and like we almost had that on January 6th, but on a weird insurrection level, right? Like, There's still a portion of freaking people out there that think there was a rigged election and Sky God emboldened one man. I just, it's hard.
It's so hard. We're going to go back to Name That Strain. Name That Strain comes to us today from Wasilla, Alaska. That strain right there is a real delight, and it goes all the way back to certain coffee shops. It has a very floral essence, maybe terpinolene dominant, or with the limonene. So it's got a nice limony and floral smell. It can be quite uplifting. And so we are still playing Name That Strain.
I love the people that guess automatically last in Thunderfuck. Like, assume it's in Alaska. It's going to be.
It was made in Alaska, but Alaska is not in its name.
I've drove through Wasilla, though, dude. It's a blink of an eye.
Well, that's where Sarah Palin came from.
Well, that's why I knew. Like, I pulled into Anchorage and had to drive to the North Pole. I've been to the North Pole, Alaska, dude. It's like there's Santa Claus shit all over. It's Christmas all year round, but you have to drive through Wasilla, and it's a blink of an eye. It's a pretty little town. I mean, Alaska's fucking gorgeous, dude. It's a good place to get high.
I'd love to visit it. I mean, I'm gonna go hang out with these people and get high with Ryan Mckay and be like, "You're related to Adam Mckay?" He goes, "No, that is a producer who did Anchorman in L.A." I'm like, "Oh man, that's right. Smoke a lot of weed though. Forget a lot of things." Yeah.
I mean, so when I pulled in Anchorage and I had a day to kill, I drove south, and there's another town. I forget the name, but you go through a tunnel, right? So I already purchased some good weed. It's light 24 hours a day. I smoked a little bit on the whatever the main highway is. Then I go through this tunnel. Shit you not, this tunnel is a mile long, right? There's one entrance in, one entrance out. They let you in. Like, people are only going in one direction either way. It was the scariest fucking thing to have smoked before I gone through this mile tunnel, thinking the whole thing was going to collapse on me. Like, you get really.
Yeah. The only way that's worse is if now you're not in a car, you're snorkeling, or
my God.
You're doing what's the thing with snorkeling, but you bring your own air, scuba diving. Okay. And so like you're scuba diving. That's like, hey, you know how you get claustrophobic? Yeah. And like, you know how you also don't ever want to be buried alive? Well, what about drowning? Yeah, I don't want that. How about drowning while underwater because you run out of oxygen as something falls? No. And so, like, who are these people that are scuba diving through tunnels in like Mexico and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, no, that is not appealing to me at all. Can I just like go watch somebody do a gram challenge for dabbing? You know, that is something that I want to see.
I thought about spelunking, dude, but that's neither here or there because everything hurts now. But let's just move on to the next. I'll go, bro.
Close, but no. Close, but no. But then it was grown in that location, Mantanuska. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Any help on that one, Miggy? Mantanuska?
I would say that's it right there, man. Mantanuska.
All right. Well,
sounds like a native enunciation type stuff.
That's where it was cultivated. I mean, the license holder is in Wasilla, but then the cultivation location was in that location.
So what's this next one? State to pay $475K to family of pot suspect killed by dozer.
What? Read up on that. Who dozer?
Let's check it out. The state of Pennsylvania will pay $475,000 to the estate of a man who died underneath a bulldozer that Pennsylvania State Police had used to chase him for growing a handful of marijuana. Oh my God!
What? Whoa! Full stop. Back up on that one. Pennsylvania be tripping. Oh my gosh! Holy crap! You chased a suspect with a bulldozer and killed him with it? Where did you get that training, Sergeant? I will bust you down to private so fast. I mean, like, who are training the people that are enforcing these laws?
But again, why is this a crime that you have to chase him, right? Like, Gregory Longnecker, 51, had fled into the thick brush after being caught growing 10 marijuana plants on public land. Are you fucking kidding me? His body was found under the treads of a Pennsylvania game commissioner bulldozer that the state police had commandeered in pursuit.
The state police first commandeered the bulldozer and then pursued it. How much of that state police, like, did you ever see some of those Liam Neeson movies? They're all the same. Basically, somebody tries to hurt somebody in his family and then he murders people. Yeah. And so there was this one where he was a bank robber and he robbed banks and he tried to turn himself in because he found love. And it didn't go well because the FBI wanted to steal all the money that he had robbed from the banks. And then he had a certain set of skills because he's Liam Neeson. And he goes and he kills the rogue FBI agents. And then you read stories like that and you're like, no, seriously, was somebody trying to pocket money and then like make some problems go away? I mean, that like, just reading that is just so fucked up in the head.
But this is another recent example of why prohibition sucks. Like,
Sucks.
It's not the first time it happened, though.
We reached the president for comment, and do we have that queued up? The president's comments on as to why he is continuing to maintain the failed drug war. We'll get it queued up one day.
It's all good. You know what? I know we should just take a break, though. I think everybody needs to take a break, a little
break,
Lafusa or.
That is such a pencils down moment because that bumper is coming, and and so when we hit one of those bumpers with the music, it mutes our mics. So then, it's like, dude, it's like, and boom. Well, back to the cannabis legalization news.
I'm gonna have a weed burps too.
Yeah,
you chase water, get some your whoop. But yeah,
10 marijuana plants on public land. Kill him with a bulldozer. Pennsylvania is going to legalize it any day now, and that's another thing. Miggy, when do you think it will probably be federally legal? Because everybody asks you that all the time.
Well, again, if it happened today, where now they can't put you behind bars for the plant itself or chase you with a bulldozer.
Right.
It's going to be another 5 years, 6 years just for the regulation, the infrastructure to build. But at least people will stop dying. Can we worry about real bad shit? All this diversion bullshit about the Muppets being, Mr. Potato Head or whatever the fuck. There's real fucking issues.
And then so what was the real fucking issue all weekend? Every reporter went down to the border and said, oh my gosh, now Joe Biden is just allowing people into the border. Migrant crisis. And so are we going to talk about the drug war? Are we going to talk about how the drug war may also be fueling the migrant crisis? Are we going to talk about the problems at the border? Are we going to talk about how Mexico continues to, did they legalize it yet?
It's getting there. And again, that's like the fear mongering happens with like 80% of the country, right? Because only 20% lives on the goddamn border. And those people aren't as freaked out. Every once in a while, you'll have a couple reps that are talking, and that's just because they can pander to all the Fox News dumbasses. But at the same point, it's not that. I thought this was America. Bring me your free, your poor, the land of opportunity, and all the other shit that we'd like to fucking spiel out. But have.
And then not only that, and I get it, but then I also understand there's this terrible trade of human trafficking, and they're like, hey, no. Borders open now. I mean, all the coyotes that want to make that illegal money. They're like, oh, now we can go. Yes, now we can go. But then are they going to talk about the drugs? Are they going to talk about the drug war? Are they going to talk about why there's failed problems in certain Central American states?
Again, the policy is why people carry guns and shoot each other over bad deals, whereas, now in legal states, people can get taken to court, be sued and civilly be chased and have your bank accounts frozen or whatever the shit has when adults do business instead of breaking your knuckles and shooting your kneecaps. I mean, this is what we aspire to be versus what it is, and we encourage because of the fucked up laws. That's it.
Yeah. Well, it's terrible, and it's changing on an extremely slow basis. And so when everybody was like, oh my gosh, it's going to legalize, and the pot stocks run to the moon because it's going to legalize, and here comes the Senate's plan. And what was the Senate's plan? This has been something that was viewed 8,000 times. Thank you for viewing it, by the way. And if you're joining us, please consider becoming a member. But the thing was that they had a whole press conference with elbow bumps and all the crap. Yeah. And all they said was, stay tuned.
But what's funny about the pot stocks too is when these pot stocks get their bump, like the Crescos and all the other Tilrays, these non-profit creating companies, it's so sad, and this is a prime example of what's fucked up in the world when you have these billion-dollar entities, $1 million, whatever they value at, and they're just sucking money. They're not really producing any real generating any they're all in the red. And it's been how many years?
Except for True Leaf, and True Leaf does own half of Florida. True Leaf does post a revenue of 56 cents a share. Although, if anybody knows of another cannabis stock that you can buy and trade that is actually posting positive revenue, drop it in the comments. I'd love to look at it.
Well, but the thing is, like, as a business, a lot of these places aren't. And when it comes to investing, people are throwing money, rich, wealthy people are throwing money at these brain projects that are going to come up with nothing. As someone who's, you and I have been observing the history for 10 years at least, I think what we're creating is going to have more value than all the shit that's existing right now, because they're all just pulling shit out of their ass and with non-experience. That's the thing, right? You don't ask somebody how to get money if they're homeless. Like, you don't ask the guy who's like panhandling, hey, do you know how I can get a job? And that's the same thing with marijuana cannabis policy and cannabis like regulation and culture and perception. And it's a really good trim job, though.
Yeah, but let's talk about it for a bit. As Miggy does this is the activism show. This is Sunday. And so we go back to the Name That Strain. Lauren's got a little hint for you. This strain originates from Amsterdam. It is a cultural staple amongst the coffee shops there. Name the strain. And so we haven't seen it come through in the comments yet. Otherwise, we would have been like, there it is. But there's been a lot of great guesses in the comments. And thank you guys so much for watching, tuning in, and listening to the Cannabis Legalization News Show and playing a little bit of Name That Strain. We hope to do that with Tommy Chung on Wednesday and get that show posted to you pretty shortly thereafter. Chad wins.
Nice.
That's right. It's Dutch treat. Chad Westport nails it. And the hint. The hint worked. Good hint, Lauren.
I love a good Dutch treat.
It is. It's a classic. It is a classic.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any other articles for the weekend, or should we just kind of blow the? Oh no. Yeah. Let's
Mexico.
New Mexico. That came in on the wire today. That's coming out. Like New Mexico, the governor is planning a special sessions. Just reported on March 20th. The New Mexico governor plans special session on marijuana legalization because the bill has stalled and the session is over. And so now they're trying to get the Senate back and hear Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham's proposal for ending cannabis prohibition. This is the House Bill 12 that was passed in their House of Representatives, nearly 200 pages. We've created some content on it, but then of course we held off on publishing it or like creating videos off of it until we see what's going to happen here. Tune into Cannabis Legalization News next week. If there's movement on it, maybe Miggy and I'll hop on a live feed, because there are 3 million people in New Mexico that hopefully will have legal cannabis shortly.
I think it's just so wild how it's the governor stepping up, and it couldn't get past the floor. Like I heard policy explain, like, the problem with having two parties is like trying to get 100 people. Like, you ever try and order a pizza, which is a group of people?
No, I have that problem because I don't like to eat meat. And so I'll eat cheese begrudgingly because there's not a vegan substitute that does ever done like casein protein very well. But then, yeah, I'm one of those.
So they'd be like, you're like a separate special pizza.
No. Like, I'm like, can we just get vegetables? And I'm like,
salads.
End of list. Like, I'll take vegetables. Do you want pineapple? Nothing. No, but it's fine.
No, dude, I totally get it. I just, it's just so cool to see the governor step up and to see New Mexico have a fair chance. And
so much you need that. So much. Think about what happened in South Dakota and the poor people that call for the South Dakota that want a license. And I'm like, oh, bro, I'm sorry. You need to get that person out of the driver's seat. That's about how you get the licenses. And so seeing somebody like Governor Grisham in New Mexico is so great for getting your industry started in that state. And that's one of the problems with New Mexico. Everything new is trying to legalize. New Jersey, New Mexico, New York. Yeah. And so that's the problem with New York is they don't have the governor really dialed in and believing in legalizing cannabis to get it done. I mean, they have it in New Jersey.
Yeah, I think it's because the governor's too busy trying to hump everybody around him.
Yeah, man. I just turned 40, and so like I've talked to people that are younger than me, and like I could just be like, I don't think I can date anybody who's like younger than 35, and like hearing the governor's stuff as a 60-plus-year-old man, and I'm like, wow.
Dude has no chill, but I mean, yeah, I mean, if they had focus on actually helping the people, this would be, and again, policy, right? Like if New Mexico happens, first off, the tourism is gonna be lit because a good desert, man. Go out in the desert, dunes. There's lots of good things you can do out there. I think they have forests and stuff too, but it's gonna be nice that. But so here's another thing too: the fact that it couldn't get it off the floor shows that both Republicans and Democrats suck.
Yeah. Like that's the thing. That was the whole welcome to the message of today's show. And after the message of today's show, we'll go to like the name that strain details and do some more shout outs. The point of today's show is like nothing really makes sense because you think that it's one way where it's the Democrats that are trying to get it legalized, and then they're stymied by the Republicans. And then suddenly, no, that's not even what's happening. It's actually the Democrats are stepping on their own stuff and they're getting in their own way. And then sometimes Republicans are actually kind of going for it. But that being the point is our Dutch treat, as was guessed correctly earlier, is grown and it hails from a cultivation and retail license. Alaska Legacy Genetics is Dutch treat. And if you would like to be on Name That Strain, please send your weed pictures to Miggy. I would, well, should they send them to you? Like,
hit me up at 420 binary.
All right. Well, there's that. Hit him up at 420 binary.
Tom at Tom Collateral Base.
I'm a Collateral Base. I should hit edit on that and put your email in next time because my email box is very often.
Well, you got a lot of business stuff. Like I just like the fun cannabis culture and news. Like when
that's why we need a good page on cannabislegalizationnews.com where it's like, hey, and if you guys want to get in on the Name That Strain challenge, please submit your nugget pictures at cannabislegalizationnews.com/name the strain.
When's your webinar?
There's a webinar on Thursday, and so we'll probably have to spin that up. And then I was supposed to do the slides on that today, but it was what we call outside nice.
But it's going to be a free Jersey webinar.
Yeah, it'll be a free Jersey webinar, and then I'll do two things. One, I'll like post just a long form of it afterwards after we edit it and say like, here, if you guys went to the webinar and you're on our email list, so you can go to cannabislegalizationnews.com or cannabisindustrylawyer.com and sign up for our email list there, or fill out the Get Started page in cannabisindustrylawyer.com and then become one of our leads. And then that'll subscribe you to the email list as well. But and then you see, we get to create 6 videos out of this. And so I'm going to tell them, because there's like 6 different classes of licenses. And then there's 2 different types of larger classes on top of that, like a conditional license, a micro license. And so we'll talk about all the different types of licenses. And then I get to cut all those up and then make 6 different videos for the web pages that we did over at CannabisIndustryLawyer.com.
Dope, dude.
Yeah, it's called content creation.
Damn right. Yeah. Hey, look, Game of Thrones would have been different if these girls had bongs. Oh shit! There you go.
225 people are watching Miggy play with bongs.
Hey, how you doing? I love these little fucking things.
That's adorable. Miggy's playing with bongs. All right. Well, thank you so much for playing Name That Strain. We do. Let's talk about one more article before we cut out and dip. Yeah. It's not like, U of I is going to be in the tournament anymore. So the House reintroduces the Safe Banking Act to normalize cannabis commerce.
That's going to be a big one.
Why don't you talk a little bit about it, and I'll...
Can you make it bigger? Actually, you know what? Because I just closed out the tab, so I didn't... Here we go. Representative Earl...
Not me. I'm sorry. Wrong one. Still wrong one. So I'm trying to catch myself at 420 doing it.
That's all right. There you go.
Wait, Lauren dropped me out of the street. That was great.
Representative Earl Schumer, Steve Silvers, and Warren Davison, over 100 additional co-sponsors, have reintroduced the Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking Act in the House of Representatives. I mean, this is going to be a good opportunity to actually, you can get loans and be involved as a real business, but this won't cover the 1080E though, right?
No, that's going to be dropping it to Schedule 3. And so my prognostication for Senator Schumer is going to be calling for a regulation that requires it to be dropped to Schedule 3, and that also allows for the Safe Banking Act. And so that's going to be their reform package, because if that happens, then while it's still, kind of a very highly regulated federal substance, IRC 280E doesn't apply, so the industry becomes immediately more profitable. All those dispensaries that are losing money, or they're using certain management tactics so that there's a lot of money moving between entities to avoid the tax liability, and we create them as C corps or LLCs taxed as a C corp, so that the audit risk just lies at the dispensary that might get audited. And so that game goes away to a certain extent. I mean, you're still going to try to avoid taxes, but now you're going to be like any other corporate entity. It's going to be legal. And so the ways that they set them up will still be like these type of holding corporations, because the entities that you actually get the license for in the New Jersey webinar will be good about this. There's very often very stringent locality, and like you're going to get points to be able to get the license because you are a resident of a particular location. And so like the 10-1, and then with Arizona's license window just closed, and it was like almost 20 to 30-1. So like there was 13 licenses available. There was like 317 different applications. Now that could be a misleading headline because 126 of the license holders were probably in that count, as they were grandfathered in, but they still had to apply for the license, and it was a very easy process to do. So I'm not sure if that 300 number is all of the applications that they received for the early applications in Arizona, or just for those 13 new entities that will be coming to that state. And so like, because it's just ridiculously competitive, if you don't have the residency points, you're just not even in the contention.
Well, the Safe Banking Act though also help enable more of that social equity, where now minority can get a loan, or anybody rather, this is an opportunity if you have a business plan to go to Wells Fargo or some other stuff and say, hey, no.
Well, maybe a little bit with banks, but the SBA, funding back loans, that's going to require probably complete descheduling. That was in the MORE Act, where they actually talked, because they were going to completely legalize it, and then they were actually going to try to provide SBA loans. They do have SBA loans. It's just that,
Well, a lot of the hemp people didn't qualify for the goddamn PPE. Like that, ridiculous. And then some people did get PPE, are part of that bullshit investor stuff. That damn Bazillion guy. I don't understand how this guy, the Trump of weed, stays in business. I'm not in California, so I guess the market's huge out there, but everybody I've spoken to is I don't see this project shit. What fluffy hair, greasy dumbass is buying this guy's shit? I don't see the.
You know how to launder money?
Huh?
So do you know how to launder money?
Yeah, well, they're saying he's laundering his dad's money still or whatever, but who knows?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. But yeah, it's upsetting.
It just was a weird decade where it was being a bank lawyer and in the capacity that I was before I was able to get into weed, you just think that everybody's the most dishonest, not just politician type, but business person type, who's just stealing 3 different times the same dollar. And you're like, man, that's actually kind of impressive. And then, but you have to usually collapse the kite or stop the fraud that's going on and try to collect all the money that you can get. Yeah, I mean, the cannabis industry to a certain extent reminds me of that, but it's just corporations. I mean, they're going to be passing money around as much as they can to avoid everything that they need to benefit the shareholders.
That's part of the frustrating part as you watch the regulation happen, because you have a lot of your mom and pops and people who say, if I wanted to start a store or a brand, whatever, I mean, I'd have to actually work. You know, I've worked hard not to have to work. I mean, like, I still go to a job, but I know everything I'm doing there, and it's easy. Sales suck. Like, I've been there. I've done sales.
Sales doesn't suck, provided that you know what you're selling and you really think people need to buy it. And so then it's easier to, I mean, like, if I was trying to sell Crest toothpaste, I would suck at it. But even though I know people need to brush their teeth, I just wouldn't believe in the product as much. You know, or if I was trying to sell hamburgers, terrible. Be like, you shouldn't be eating this.
Well, when I used to sell weed, you know how I used to sell weed?
Huh?
I'd be like, I got weed. Like, weed sells itself. Like the product is already there. Like, you don't need to. Like, we have these layers of regulation, all that bullshit to it, and it conflates the conversation about cannabis, because it really should just be about, like, the nutrients and how you treat it and how you grow it, and you want all females. Like, this is about a plant. And then after that becomes a business, and then people go to jail, or if you have enough money or you're layered enough, you avoid it. Like, there's so much shit, but there's also good shit too.
The problem with shit is that you need it to grow good weed. And so there's going to be a lot of shit in your life. Most often it's bat guano, but other times it might be fish shit. And many people support the fish shit brand when they are trying to make some good flowers.
I mean, all over plant, man. It's so infuriating that people's lives are ruined, and it's a wellness thing. It's like you said, you have all the facts, you have all the proof now. Like, this shit is no longer an experiment. This is no longer pulling.
You should not be firing people from working at the White House for this plant.
I'm not a lesser human being for it. You know, I mean, like I said, dude, I've worked in defense. I've worked in missile tech. I smoked the whole time. Like, the only time I didn't keep smoking was when I was in the Navy, even though I did smoke occasionally, like on a long weekend or something. You take your goddamn gamble. It's what it is. And because you knew if you get caught, I had many times where I had to take a pee test and was like, all right, so once I get fired, I guess you got to make plans automatically. You are automatically in the wrong for testing hot. And it's bullshit. And it shouldn't be, because you shouldn't have to lose your livelihood or your anything else because of it. But that's how it is.
Yeah, like, well, that's why we're here. We're here to bring sensible regulations to people so that that zero tolerance, that, like, we're just going to totally fuck over your life because that's what the law says and we can do it. That's going away.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's real good. And it needs to go faster. Come on, fucking whoever. Let's do it tomorrow, not on 420. I mean, Schumer, I don't give a, like I said, if Trump would have done legalization, like this whole pedophile Democrat ring bullshit, right? Like, there's an elite pedophile ring out there. This conversation was happening when he was president. So you're telling me the guy who was president, who you think is the guy fighting those motherfuckers, is not part of that now? Because nothing happened. In the 4 years of all this conspiracy bullshit, there was no investigations. It's all about, like, there was no lock her up shit. Like, this is all bullshit for all these small-minded motherfuckers to be distracted while there's real shit going on, like fucking people getting shot or killed behind bars or all over a goddamn stupid plant. It's a multi-layered fucking single voter issue.
Yeah. It really should not be taking this long.
I guess smoke.
All right. Well, yeah.
Get off fiery.
Sad note to go out on. I don't know. You know what we didn't play though? VP Harris admitting to smoking weed. So, like, what happens to her? You know?
Oh, shit.
Do we have that? Do we have a clip of that?
I can pull it up real quick. Yeah, she was on the Breakfast Club.
Mm-hmm.
Pull that up real quick.
Just great moments in weed hypocrisy.
Yes.
Yeah, which is terrible because, like, they shouldn't be doing this. I mean, like, and then that was the other news article that we could have led with that was reported as well this weekend, maybe today, or maybe it was on the 20th on Saturday, that the Biden administration, or Biden himself, counseled the Democrats against putting marijuana legalization on their platform for fear that it may lose him the election.
Dude, And then her bullshit about like, and here's the other thing too, like, again, I don't give a fuck who legalizes it, but like people are saying, okay, well, he's just pandering for 3 years and then she'll take over. Like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck who takes over. Like, it does, none of this affects my life.
All right. And when reached for comment, Vice President Harris said something.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
wait, how do I play with the sound?
It should give you an option when you share the screen to share audio.
Oh, it's not. I think they changed it.
They didn't push play though.
But oh well,
Yeah,
she did admit it on the
Yeah,
radio.
no, yeah. And then she talked about like listening to Tupac or whatever, and like people are like questioning like her time periods and shit like that. Like I get it, but the fact is, like at one time she thought it was cool enough to campaign with it, but now you hit that. It's the same thing that happened with Carter when legalization was about to happen, and then Keithstrop ratted out the guy for the cocaine use or whatever. Like every time we get so close to some shit, there's like some petty dumb shit that's for about metrics and or visual, you know, how things look. It's fucking ridiculous. How things look is like shit right now. How things look is people getting shot and fucking protests. Like I saw one good point with the Cheech Marin was talking about like how this recent summer of Black Lives Matter, right? Like it's America is cyclic, right? We're going up and down with racial division and all this shit. But he said, you know, the same thing happened in the 60s, but during his time, they were actually getting shot at, right? That's the one thing I gotta say didn't happen this past summer. No rampant shooting like Kent State or any other shit, but it's still not that vision that we all think should be the American dream, the thing that, you know, but we're getting there.
We're getting there.
Yeah. We'll keep getting there every Wednesday and Sunday, and then, of course, interspersed with various things that might break.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Biden falling down a set of stairs, mostly because he fucked up. I mean, it was hilarious. It's one of those things where it happens in your life where, you know, like, how quickly has karma like just smacked you in the face? Like you're like, this is gonna be just fine, and then boom, everything goes wrong. And that it happened so quickly for him is one of those like, just well, that was nice. I hope he remembers that. It's like, well, why did I fall? Because you fired people for weed.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, that's it.
I mean, like, to happen on his watch. I hope he fucking pays attention. I hope somebody's talking to him. And like, this is one of those things they need to get in order.
They're all talking about the border. I mean, like, look at the news. All the news stories today on the Sunday programs for politics was border crisis. Now they think the border's open, and now it's all down there. And it's like, did they mention weed at all? Or did they mention, like, why is there a border crisis? Like, does the drug war and our drug laws that we have contribute to an unsecure border? Because there's too much, like, why is Bolivia such a shit right now? Or whatever, wherever these places are that a lot of the migrants are coming from.
But like Bolivia, but the border is always used as a diversion topic when you're right, because all they're doing is just making noise. And the border really isn't an issue, right? Like I get like there's people coming here illegally, right? It's not just brown, there's Asians, all this other shit, and we want terrorists, right? But we're past that point. Like civility still needs to take over versus when I was a kid, dude, there was no real border except for like come on through. Like there was like a drive-through. Now you have a fucking 3-hour line when you drive through, and they're checking your car, they're checking everything, you know, for goods mostly. And mostly, yeah, that's all they're looking for, right? Then they're more worried about people transporting cheap products across to sell them in their own little store than they are worried about actual illegals for the most part. Like,
did I ever tell you about that time I broke into Russia?
no.
All right. Well, back in 2005, I broke into Russia because I had washed my blue jeans with my passport in it. I had my visa for getting into Russia. And I also washed my blue jeans that had the Mongolian passport that required me to be thrown off of train in outer Mongolia, which really harshed the mellow of the people I was traveling with, by the way. And so they did not want me to cross with them into Russia because they're little pussies. That's right. That's right, guys. I am going to tag you in a Facebook post to be like, remember that one time I called you pussies back in 2005? And so I had to get into Russia. And I had bought a cheap Chinese guitar, which was hilarious. And so getting into Russia was pretty easy. They just pointed at the cheap Chinese guitar case and wanted to know if it was a machine gun. And I assured them that it was not. It was just a guitar. They let me go. And then I hitchhiked to the next train station because I taught myself Russian.
Wow.
Like you do. Like, you know, you have time.
But
but so that was the time that I kind of had to like hitchhike into Russia. It was fun. And that's what I did before law school. I was the worst guy to know in law school because I'm like, well, what'd you do last summer? Well,
your border crossing was a high five though, right? Like somehow we haven't figured out that as human beings, we travel back and forth, but now these guys coming out trying to work for, like, it's not all like this bullshit with like, they send the worst people. No, people are fucking trying to make their lives better.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to go through a desert at fucking 300 degrees and just to make $2 an hour.
I was just a tourist. I'm just trying to get to Georgia, you know, and then I eventually did. Nice place. Got to stay with George from Georgia. We couldn't find weed. We could find heroin. We didn't do it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
I flew to Amsterdam and I smoked weed and I saw some flowers, and then I flew back to Illinois and then I went to Marquette Law School, and that's what happened. Yeah,
life happens, man. I mean, it's, you know, I would have never thought you did all that shit, but you know, we can't take anything at face value, right? Like we just can't judge.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things. You just don't know what somebody else has done, or like, you know, but we all just snap judge real quick so that our worlds make more sense and we don't have to be like, oh, I was wrong. I'm learning something. This is not what I expected, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Lauren, as you wrap it up, tell them what's going on with Tommy Chong, and then let's wrap it up.
yeah, we're going to have Tommy Chong on this Wednesday. We do have to pre-record it and use Zoom. I wish we could send the Zoom link out so people could join backstage, but we're still figuring Zoom out. So maybe next time. But we'll post that episode maybe Wednesday or Sunday, or we'll go live on Wednesday. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Yeah. But yeah, tune in, guys. We're going to be answering some questions. So DM Tom at Cannabis Industry Lawyer with any questions for Tommy Chong. Should be very interesting. But thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you like and subscribe to keep up with all cannabis legalization news. We'll see you on Wednesday.